Chapter 1. The Whisper That Crawled from the Vault. The voice came first. Before the screen even lit up, a child's whisper, thin as parchment tearing, slithered through my headphones in perfect ecclesiastical Latin. Noli me tangere, noli me legere, touch me not, rid me not. I ripped the buds from my ears. The apartment was silent except for the hum of my laptop fan. No open tabs, no video playing, just an email notification pulsing on the lock screen like a fresh bruise from Archivum. Secretum's Vatican, va. Subject, Codex Umbrae. Urgent translation request. I should have deleted it. Spam filters miss everything these days. But the sender's domain was verified, triple checked by the little blue shield my university's IT department brags about. And the attachment? A single JPEG, a wax seal cracked down the middle, the Chi Rho symbol bleeding into what looked like real blood under ultraviolet light. I clicked. The image expanded to fill my screen. Beneath the seal, handwritten in crimson ink that hadn't faded in 4 centuries, Father Luca Rossi. You have been chosen. Rule 1, never recite after sunset, or the words will recite you. Arrive Vatican City by the Ides of March, alone, no digital copies. Archivist Primo, secret archives. My pulse thudded in my throat. I'm not Father anything. Haven't worn the collar since seminary dropout 8 years ago. Just Luca Rossi, PhD in paleolinguistics, tenure-track nobody at a mid-tier Jesuit college in Boston. I translate crumbling Syriac grocery lists for grant money. The Vatican doesn't headhunt adjuncts. Yet here was proof. My full name, Luca Matteo Rossi, spelled in uncial script that matched a 9th century gospel I'd authenticated last spring. The same flourishes on the capital R, the same microabrasion where the quill skipped. I glanced at the clock, 11:47 p.m. Sunset had been 6 hours ago. The whisper returned, not through the headphones this time, but from the laptop speakers themselves, volume cranked to max though I'd muted everything. Luque, the syllables stretched, wet, like a tongue tasting each letter. My childhood nickname, Lucetto, the one my mother used when she tucked me in, the one no academic database could ever hold. I slammed the lid shut. The room plunged into darkness except for the city glow leaking through the blinds. My rosary, plain olive wood, a gift from Nonna, lay on the nightstand. I hadn't touched it since her funeral. Now its shadow on the wall looked longer, as if an extra bead had grown in the dark. Sleep was impossible. I paced, rehearsing rationalizations, deep fake, prank by my grad students, but the email's PGP signature verified, and the JPEG's metadata embedded GPS coordinates 41.9229 diction in 12 4578 EE, smack in the center of the Vatican's secret archives, a place that doesn't officially exist on Google Maps. At 3:33 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Italian country code. I answered on reflex. Signore Rossi? A woman's voice, calm, edged with steel. Sister Chiara Moretti, custodian of forbidden texts. Your flight leaves Logan at 19:05 tomorrow. Gate 17. Do not check luggage. Do not speak of this to anyone. And Luca. A pause, as if she were reading from a script older than her vows. Whatever you do not open the attachment again after dark. The seal is already broken. Click. Deadline. I stared at the phone. The screen showed the call lasted exactly 13 seconds. The next morning, I boarded Alitalia flight AZ631 with nothing but a carry on and the clothes on my back. The rosary went into my pocket. Superstition. I told myself the in flight movie was some Marvel nonsense. I couldn't focus. Every time the cabin lights dimmed for turbulence, I swear the beads grew warmer against my thigh. We landed at Fiumicino under a sky the color of old bruises. A black Mercedes idled at arrivals. No plates, just a discreet Vatican crest on the door. The driver, a lay brother in charcoal suit, didn't speak. He handed me a velvet pouch. Inside, a new rosary, but not like any I'd seen. Silver beads, each engraved with a microscopic symbol. Some I recognized, Chi Rho Alpha Omega. Others that hurt to focus on, like trying to read words underwater. The crucifix was inverted, but the corpus was missing. Just a hollow space where Christ should hang. A tiny LED glowed faint blue at the junction where chain met cross. Marker rosary, the driver grunted, eyes on the road. Rule 2, never remove it on Vatican soil. Rule 3, never count the beads allowed. There are 13, always 13. He dropped me at the Arch of Bells gate. No passport control, no questions. Just a nod from the Swiss guard, who looked about 19 and already exhausted. Sister Chiara waited beneath the arch, habit stark white against the ancient stone, mid-40s, scar running from left ear to collarbone like a lightning strike frozen in flesh. Her eyes were the gray of confessionals at dawn. Father Rossi, not a father, I corrected. You will be by the end of this. She didn't smile. Follow and keep the rosary visible. We descended, not the tourist elevators, the other ones, a brass cage hidden behind a tapestry of the Last Judgment. Chiara inserted a key shaped like a skeletal finger. The cage rattled downward, past the public levels, past the climate-controlled stacks I'd dreamed of as a grad student. The air grew colder, thicker, smelling of myrrh and wet stone. At sublevel 7, unmarked on any map, the doors opened onto a corridor lit by oil lamps. Actual flames, no electricity. The walls were lined with iron doors, each stamped with a different papal seal. Some seals were melted, as if acid had been poured over wax. Chiara stopped at door the third. The Roman numeral was carved so deep it looked clawed. Codex Umbri, she said, sealed since 1623. 7 translators before you. 0 survivors past page 66. She produced a folder, blood red, like the one in the email, but real. Inside, a single sheet of vellum, the ink still wet. Rule 4, if the text bleeds, do not taste it. Rule 5, if it speaks your name, do not answer. My mouth went dry. What happens if I refuse? Chiara's scar twitched. Then the child chooses another, and the whispers follow you home. They always do. She pushed the door. It swung inward without a sound. The chamber beyond was a perfect cube, 13 feet to a side. In the center, a lectern of black marble veined with gold. Atop it, chained with silver links, thick as my wrist, lay the codex. Its cover wasn't leather. It was skin, human. By the pore pattern, the title was branded, not inked, Umbre. The book was closed, but I heard it breathing. Chiara fastened a velvet cord around my wrist, tethering me to the lectern at exactly 13 inches. Rule 6, never closer, never farther. She lit a single beeswax candle, The flame bent toward the book, as if bowing. Begin, she said. I opened the cover. The first page was blank, until it wasn't. Ink bloomed like a bruise, forming words in a script that predated Latin, predated anything I'd studied, but I could read it. The letters rearranged themselves into English, then Italian, then a dialect my nonna spoke when drunk on grappa. Welcome. Lucero. We've been waiting since your baptism. The candle snuffed itself. In the dark, the rosary around my neck began to glow, bead by bead, counting down from 13, somewhere in the stacks. A child giggled. I looked up. Kiara was gone. The door was sealed and on the lectern. The codex had turned itself to page 13. The whisper returned, intimate as breath on my ear. Read me, Lucetto, or I'll read you to the bones. The silver chain rattled, the book opened wider, revealing an illustration, a boy drowning in a font of holy water, eyes wide, mouth forming my name. My fingers, traitors, reached for the text. Chapter 2, The Rosary That Burns. The giggle followed me up the brass cage elevator, echoing off the shaft like a marble dropped in a well, when the doors slid open at ground level. The sound cut off mid-note, heh heh heh, leaving only the thud of my heart and the faint sizzle of the marker rosary against my collarbone. Sister Chiara was waiting in the Cortile della Pina, moonlight slicing across her scar like a fresh wound. She didn't ask if I'd started reading. She already knew. You felt it, she said, not a question. I lifted the rosary. The blue LED had shifted to a sullen amber, pulsing in time with my carotid. Beta Thiggia 13, the one I wasn't supposed to stare at, was warm. Too warm. I could smell scorched skin. Rule 7, Chiara murmured, producing a small tin of salve that reeked of frankincense and hospital antiseptic. If the metal brands, do not remove. The burn is a reminder. She smeared the ointment over the welt forming beneath the chain. The pain dulled to a throb, but the heat migrated inward, pooling behind my sternum like swallowed coals. We walked, not through the tourist corridors with their gift shop holograms of Michelangelo's Pietà, but service tunnels that smelled of candle smoke and centuries of incense baked into stone. Swiss guards nodded at Chiara. None looked at me. One crossed himself as we passed. At the end of a hallway lined with confessionals repurposed as storage, Chiara stopped before an unmarked door, iron, no handle. She pressed her palm to a panel that looked like polished obsidian, a low chime, 3 notes. Descending minor third, and the door irised open like a camera aperture. Inside, a monastic cell updated for the apocalypse, narrow bed, steel desk, a crucifix that had clearly been used as a weapon. The corpus was missing an arm, the wood splintered. On the desk sat a leather case the size of a violin bow. Your tools, Chiara said. I opened it. Inside, nested in black foam, a goosequill pen, feathers still attached, tip stained rust brown, an inkwell of lead crystal, stoppered with a cork sealed in wax. The liquid inside moved on its own, slow spirals like oil in water. A single sheet of vellum, watermarked with the papal tiara, and a second rosary, identical to the one burning my skin, but the beads were matte black, absorbing light. Back up, Chiara explained. If the marker fails, you switch, but only once. Rule 8, second rosary, second chance, third rosary, third death. She watched me clip the spare to my belt. Tomorrow, 4 a.m. sharp. Sub-level 9. Bring nothing electronic. The Codex dislikes batteries. I started to ask why, but she was already reciting from memory. Voice flat as a funeral rite. Rule 9, no mirrors after Compline. Rule 10, if the ink forms a face, avert your eyes. Rule 11, should the child ask for a story, tell the truth, but never the ending. Rule 12, if you hear your mother's voice, she is already dead, answer anyway. The last one hit like a slap. My mother vanished when I was 12. Official story, hiking accident in the Dolomites. No body. I opened my mouth. Kiara's scar twitched. Some truths are bait, she said. The Codex feeds on unfinished grief. She left without blessing or good night. The doors sealed with a hiss of hydraulics. I was alone with 2 rosaries. A quill that had once belonged to a pope's executioner. I recognized the crest. And the smell of my own fear. Sleep was a joke. I lay on the cot fully dressed, marker rosary glowing like a coal against my shirt. At 2:17 a.m., the amber shifted to red. Bead Nutcher's 13 was now hot enough to blister. I bit back a yelp and fumbled for the salve tin. Empty. Kiara had taken it. The spare rosary on my belt began to answer, its black beads lit from within. A sickly violet, a soft click, like rosary links kissing, and the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Frost bloomed on the crucifix. Then the whispering started, not from the walls, but from the beads themselves. Children's voices, layered, speaking in tongues I shouldn't know. Lucetto, play a game, count with us. I sat up. The marker rosary was swinging on its own. Pendulum slow. 1 bead, 2, 3. I tried to stop at 12. My eyes betrayed me. Bead the Bermuda 13 rotated to face me. The engraving wasn't a symbol anymore. It was a tiny eye. Iris the color of dried blood. Pupil contracting. 13. The voices sang. Always 13. The eye blinked. I lunged for the spare rosary, but my fingers passed through it like smoke. The black beads dissolved into shadow that slithered up my arm, burrowing under the skin where it touched. The burn from the marker vanished, replaced by ice. I could feel the shadow counting my ribs from the inside. A knock, 3 sharp raps. The door opened before I could answer. Kiara stood silhouetted, holding a lantern that cast no shadow. In her other hand, a Polaroid photo, still developing. She flipped it toward me, the image, my cell, taken seconds ago. I was on the cot, eyes closed, mouth open. Above me hovered a child-shaped silhouette made of ink, one hand reaching into my chest. The marker rosary hung midair, beads arranged in a perfect circle, like a noose. You were sleep translating, Kiara said. Rule 13. If the Codex writes through you, wake screaming. You didn't scream. She stepped inside, lantern raised. The child ink recoiled, hissing, and retreated into the cracks between stones. The temperature normalized. My arm was unmarked, but I could still feel the count. 1 rib, 2 ribs. Kiara produced a small silver flask. Drink, I obeyed. The liquid tasted of myrrh and battery acid. The internal counting stopped. That was a warning, she said. The nameless child marks its favorites early. Tomorrow we descend to sub-level 9, the vault of unspoken tongues. You'll meet the others. Others? Translators who lasted past page 66. What's left of them? She turned to leave. then paused. One more rule for tonight, Luca. Rule 14. If the rosary burns through your skin, do not follow the smoke. It leads down. The door sealed. The marker rosary cooled to a tolerable sear. I counted the beads aloud. 12. Only 12. The 13th was gone, leaving a gap like a missing tooth from somewhere far below. Water dripped. Each drop echoed my baptismal name. Drip. Lucetto. Drip. Lucetto. Drip. Come play. I clutched the spare rosary, now solid again, and prayed for the first time in 15 years. Not to God, to whatever was listening not to answer, outside my cell, in the corridor, bare feet pattered away. Small feet wet. Chapter 3. Ink That Screams. The descent to sublevel 9 began at 3:59 a.m., 1 minute before the hour. Because, Kiara said, the Codex hates round numbers. We took a different cage this time, wood-paneled, smelling of cedar and old blood, no buttons. Kiara whispered a phrase in Ge'ez, Ethiopic, dead since the 10th century, and the floor dropped so smoothly my stomach stayed behind. The marker rosary had cooled overnight. But bead nourished 13 was still missing. The gap itched like a phantom limb. In its place, a blister had risen on my skin, shaped exactly like the engraved eye I'd seen. When I pressed it, a single drop of black fluid welled up. It didn't run. It crawled toward my wrist. Following the vein, Kiara noticed. Rule 15. She sighed, producing a glass ampule filled with what looked like liquid starlight. If the ink migrates, catch it before it reaches the heart line. She snapped the ampule. The fluid hissed into vapor, forming a cage of light around my forearm. The droplet froze mid-crawl, crystallizing into a tiny obsidian bead. She plucked it free and dropped it into a lead vial. Evidence, she said. The child is already inside the translation. The elevator opened onto a cavernous hall that shouldn't fit beneath Vatican City, vaulted ceilings lost in shadow, supported by columns carved with screaming faces, popes, cardinals, saints, mouths stretched impossibly wide. Between the columns, iron lecterns, each chained to a different book. Some books were open, pages fluttering though there was no wind. Others were closed, covers pulsing like hearts. 7 lecterns, 7 translators. Only 3 were occupied. The first, an old man in a tattered cassock, quills scratching furiously. His eyes were sewn shut with golden thread. The page beneath his hand was blank, yet ink poured from the nib in perfect calligraphy, backwards. The second, a woman, mid-30s, habit scorched at the edges. She wasn't writing, she was erasing, a gum eraser in one hand, reducing a page to dust. Every grain that fell reassembled on the floor into tiny letters. Help me, help me, help me. The third, empty, but the chair was warm. A fresh quill lay across the lectern, tip dripping. Kiara led me past them to the center. There, on a pedestal of black marble, veined with gold, the same as the one in my vision, sat the Codex Umbre, unchained now, waiting. Rule 16, Kiara said, voice barely above the drip of distant water. Touch nothing until the candle accepts you. She lit a beeswax taper from a wall sconce. The flame was blue. She held it beneath my right palm. The heat was immediate, surgical. I didn't flinch. The flame turned white, then bowed toward the codex like a compass needle. Approval. Kiara stepped back. Page 13. Begin where you left off. I opened the book. The illustration of the drowning boy was gone. In its place, a mirror. Not drawn, actual silvered glass embedded in the vellum, no bigger than a postcard. My reflection stared back, but the eyes were wrong. Too large, too black, and the mouth was moving. Lucetto, it mouthed. Count the beads. I looked down. The marker rosary had 13 beads again. The missing one had returned, only now it was the obsidian droplet Kiara had plucked from my vein. It pulsed. Kiara's hand clamped my wrist. Rule 17, the mirror lies. Translate around it. I forced my gaze to the text bordering the glass. The script was alive, letters writhing like eels. But I could read it. God help me. I could. Verse 13:1. In principio erat verbum, sed verbum erat mendacium. In the beginning was the Word, but the Word was a lie. My quill now. The goose feather from the case dipped itself into the inkwell. The ink was thick, warm, metallic. It tasted the air. I wrote the translation on the fresh vellum Chiara provided. The words flowed easier than they should. Too easy. 13:2. The child has no name, for to name is to bind. Bind me not, Lucetto, or I bind thee. The mirror illustration rippled. My reflection smiled. I did not. Chiara leaned in, breath fogging the glass. Keep going. The codex tests fidelity. 13.3. 7 seals, 7 mouths, 7 doors. The first door is the tongue. The quill scratched faster. Ink splattered. One drop hit the mirror. The reflection licked it off. A scream, not mine, erupted from the old man at the first lectern. His sewn eyelids burst open, golden threads snapping, empty sockets bled light. He stood, chair clattering, and pointed at me with a finger that ended in a quill nib. Traditore, traditore, he shrieked. Translator, traitor, then collapsed. The page he'd been writing backwards caught fire. The flames were silent. Blue, cold. They consumed the vellum, then the lectern, then him. In seconds, ash. The ash rearranged itself into letters on the floor. Page 66 approaches. Chiara didn't blink. Rule 18. When a translator burns, do not inhale the smoke. It carries unfinished verses. The woman at the erasing lectern laughed, a sound like chalk on glass, and kept erasing. The dust at her feet now spelled my mother's name. I turned back to the codex. The mirror had grown. It now filled the entire page, edges bleeding into the vellum. My reflection was closer, nose almost touching the glass from the other side. It raised a hand. I felt my own hand rise in mirror response. Chiara slapped me hard. Rule 19, break the gaze or become the reflection. The spell shattered. My hand dropped. The mirror shrank back to postcard size. But now it showed not me, the drowning boy. Water lapped at his chin. His eyes were mine. I kept translating, voice trembling. 13:4. The second door is the ear. Hear me not, or I hear through thee. A low hum filled the chamber. The columns, screaming faces animated, mouths opening wider. From each issued a different voice. Children, women, popes long dead, whispering in languages that predated Babel. They all said the same thing. Lucetto, closer. The inkwell bubbled. The quill wrote without my hand. 13:5. The third door is the wound. Bleed for me, and I drink. Pain lanced my palm. The blister from bead number 13 had split, blood-welled, black as the ink. It dripped onto the vellum. The droplets formed letters. Mater mea ubi est. Where is my mother? Chiara's face went white beneath her scar. Rule 20. Personal questions are bait. Answer with scripture. I racked my brain for anything. Psalm 23, the Our Father, but the words tangled. The blood kept writing. 13 means 6. Ask, and the child answers. But the price is a memory. The woman at the erasing lectern stopped. Her eraser fell. She looked at me, really looked, and I saw her eyes were mirrors too. In them, my mother, younger, standing at the edge of a mountain cliff, wind whipping her habit. She was a nun. I'd never known. The memory hit like a seizure. Age 7, convent orphanage in the Alps. Sister Maria, my mother, kissing my forehead before lights out. One day, Lucetto, you'll open doors I had to close. Then gone by morning, hiking accident, they said. The blood on the page laughed, wet, bubbling. Chiara grabbed the quill, forced my hand to write. Psalm 115 and 17. The dead do not praise the Lord, nor do any who go down into silence. The blood stopped. The mirror cracked. A single shard fell out, landing point down in the vellum. It quivered, then sank like a needle into flesh. The codex slammed shut on its own. The chains rattled, relocking. The blue candle reignited, flame now blood red. Chiara exhaled shakily. Session over. You lasted 13 minutes. Most managed 13 seconds. She led me away. Behind us, the ash from the burned translator swirled into a new shape on the floor. A doorway, through it. I glimpsed a child's bare feet disappearing into shadow as we ascended. The marker rosary burned again. Bead number 13, the obsidian one, had returned to the chain. But now it was warm, and inside it, something moved. Chiara didn't notice, or pretended not to, at the cell door. She handed me a new vial, this one filled with my own blood, drawn while I was distracted. Rule 21, she whispered. Tomorrow, we open page 14. Bring the memory you're willing to lose. The door sealed. The obsidian bead pulsed once. Inside, a tiny reflection of the drowning boy, waving. Chapter 4. The Child Who Knows Your Real Name. The vial of my blood sat on the steel desk like a tiny prisoner, corked with wax the color of dried violets. Chiara had drawn it with a lancet shaped like a papal key, 3 quick pricks in the web between thumb and forefinger, while I stared at the cracked mirror shard embedded in the vellum. I hadn't felt the pain, only the warmth as the blood recognized its own script. Sleep came in fragments. Each time I drifted, the obsidian bead Numrax 13 rolled against my throat, whispering coordinates in Aramaic numerals. When the cell's single bulb flickered at 3:47 a.m., I was already awake. Rosary clutched like a garrote. Chiara collected me without ceremony. No breakfast, just a tin cup of water that tasted of rust and myrrh. Rule 22, she said, watching me drink. Hydrate with silence. Words dilute the barrier. We descended again, this time past sub-level 9, into a shaft that shouldn't exist. The elevator cage groaned, cables singing a minor key at the bottom. The doors opened onto a circular chamber ringed with 7 confessionals. Each door was carved with a different deadly sin in relief. Superbia, avaritia, luxuria, the wood so dark it drank the torchlight. In the center, a single iron chair bolted to the floor. Above it, suspended by chains thick as pythons, hung the Codex Umbrae. Open to page 14. The mirror shard was gone. In its place, a perfect circle of dried blood, mine forming a lens. Through it, the text on the opposite page shimmered like heat haze. Kiara strapped me into the chair with velvet restraints lined with silver wire. Rule 23: the chair grounds the voice, struggle, and the words root in bone. She placed the blood vial in a small brass cradle beside the lectern. When the ink asks for tribute, feed it one drop, no more. Rule 24: overfeed, and the child grows teeth. The torches dimmed to embers. The confessionals creaked open on their own. From each emerged a figure, hooded, faceless, hands clasped in prayer. They arranged themselves in a semicircle behind me. I couldn't turn, but I felt their breath on my neck, cold, synchronized, smelling of grave soil. Kiara lit a censer, frankincense and something sharper, burnt hair. The smoke coiled into the shape of a question mark, then dissolved. Begin, she said. I leaned toward the page. The blood lens magnified the script until the letters were the size of fingernails. They crawled. Verse 14, 1. The nameless child has no cradle. For every cradle is a coffin. Rock me not, Losetto, or I rock thee to dust. The quill dipped itself. Ink rose in the well like a tide. I wrote, 14 and 2. The fourth door is the name. Speak it not. For to name is to summon. Summon me not. Or I wear thy face. A giggle, soft, wet, echoed from the confessionals. The hooded figures tilted their heads in unison. Kiara's voice was steady. Continue. 14:3. I knew thee in the womb, before thy mother named thee. Thy true name is the key. Turn me not, Lusetto, or I turn the lock. The blood lens pulsed. Inside it, a shadow formed, a child, no older than 7, naked, skin translucent, veins black with ink. It pressed its face to the lens from the other side, nose flattening. Its mouth moved. I couldn't hear, but I knew. Lucetto Matteo Rossi, not the name on my passport, not the name my professors used, the name whispered over my baptismal font by a priest who vanished the same week, the name my mother screamed the night she disappeared, the quill scratched without me. 14:4. Give me the name, and I give thee power, power to find her, power to punish the hikers who left her on the mountain, power to stop. Kiara's hand clamped over mine. The quill snapped. Ink sprayed across the page, forming a perfect handprint, child-sized. The hooded figures moaned. One stepped forward, hood falling back. The face beneath was mine, but the eyes were swirling voids, mouth sewn shut with rosary wire. It raised a finger to its lips. Shh. Kiara uncorked the blood vial. One drop fell onto the page. The ink handprint absorbed it, growing fingers that reached toward the lens. Rule 25, she hissed. When the child offers a bargain, counter with a sin. She grabbed my chin, forced me to meet her eyes. Confess, now. The words tore out of me, raw, unfiltered. I was 12. I heard her screaming from the cliff. I froze. I let them say accident. I let them. The handprint recoiled, fingers curling like burning paper. The child in the lens screamed, a sound like glass dragged across stone. The lens cracked. Black ichor seeped through, pooling on the vellum. Kiara seized the moment. Verse 14:5. Counter right. I scrambled for the broken quill, dipped it in the ichor. It burned, but I wrote through the pain. The name is not yours to take. By the blood of the Lamb, by the silence of the tomb, I bind thee. The child in the lens lunged. The crack widened. A tiny hand, real, slick with afterbirth, pushed through the page. Fingers splayed, reaching for my throat. The marker rosary ignited. Bidnor 13, the obsidian one, exploded with violet light. The hand recoiled, smoking. The hooded figures shrieked, hoods flying back to reveal nothing, just swirling darkness where faces should be. Kiara slammed a silver crucifix onto the page. The hand withdrew. The lens shattered completely. Shards flew outward, embedding in the confessionals. Each shard sprouted roots of ink, burrowing into the wood. The codex slammed shut. Chains whipped around it like serpents. The chamber plunged into absolute dark. Then light from the confessionals. The ink roots had formed words on the doors, glowing sickly green. Lusetto knows the name. The name knows Lusetto. Chiara unstrapped me. My wrist was bleeding where the restraint had cut. She wrapped it with a strip torn from her habit. Rule 26. When the name is spoken, the child is half born. We have until terse 3 hours to sever the cord. She dragged me toward a side door I hadn't seen. It opened onto a spiral stair descending into deeper darkness. The air here was wet, tasting of baptismal fonts and old tears. Behind us, the codex hummed, a lullaby, my mother's lullaby. Kiara's lantern revealed the walls, covered in names, thousands, carved, some burned, bled, some fresh. At the bottom of the stair, a single name glowed brighter than the rest, etched in fresh crimson, Maria Rossi. My mother's name, dated 15th March 1997, the day she vanished. Kiara's scar split open, weeping clear fluid. Rule 27. The child keeps receipts. Your mother paid with her name to buy you time. Time's up. From the darkness below, small feet pattered upward, bare, wet, counting 1, 2, 3. Kiara shoved me through a side grate into a maintenance tunnel. Run, sub-level 11, the mirror room. Break every reflection before it breaks you. She slammed the grate through the bars. I saw her draw a flaming sword, not metaphorical, actual fire from beneath her habit. She faced the stair. The child's voice floated up, sweet as communion wine. Sister Kiara, you promised me a story. Tell the one about the nun who drowned her son to save the world. Kiara's reply was a roar of Latin exorcism. Flames erupted. The grate glowed red. I ran. The tunnel twisted, lined with pipes that wept holy water. Each drop hissed where it touched the floor, spelling fragments, Eto, Eto. I clutched the marker rosary. Only 12 beads now. The obsidian one had vanished again, this time leaving a hole burned clean through my palm. Through it. I could see the tunnel behind me. The child was following, not walking, gliding, feet inches above the ground, toes pointed like a ballerina en pointe. It smiled. Its teeth were quills. I burst into sub-level 11, the mirror room, a perfect sphere 13 meters across, every surface mirrored, floor, ceiling, walls. Infinite Lusettos stared back, each holding a bleeding hand. In the center, a single unbroken mirror on a pedestal, tall as a door, framed in bone. The child's reflection appeared in every surface at once, thousands of them, all speaking with my mother's voice. Lucetto Matteo Rossi. Say it. Say the name, and I'll show you where she's buried. The marker rosary burned white hot. The hole in my palm widened. Through it, I saw her, My mother, suspended in a font of black water, habit floating like seaweed. Her eyes opened. They were mirrors too. She mouthed, "Close the book." I raised my bleeding hand. The central mirror rippled like water. The child stepped out of it, real now, three-dimensional, skin flickering between flesh and ink. It extended a hand. "Trade. Your name for hers." The rosary snapped. Beads scattered, each landing with a sound like a coffin nail. The hole in my palm spoke, my own voice. But younger, Lucetto Matteo Rossi, son of Maria, blood of the key keepers. I accept. The child lunged. I smashed my fist into the central mirror. Glass exploded. Shards flew outward, embedding in every reflection. The infinite Lucettos screamed in unison. The child's form shattered with them, dissolving into black snow that melted before touching the floor. Silence. The pedestal was empty. The codex page, page 14, lay there, torn from the book. On it, in my handwriting, the name is spoken, the cord is cut, for now. Chiara's voice crackled from a hidden speaker. Rule 28, shatter the mirror, scatter the name, but the pieces, remember? The lights came up. The sphere was just a room now. Ordinary mirrors, cracked. My reflection, pale, bleeding. But mine. I picked up the torn page. On the back, fresh ink bloomed. "See you at page 66, Lucetto. Bring Mama." The marker rosary lay in pieces. But bead number 13, the obsidian one, rolled across the floor on its own, stopping at my feet. It had grown, now the size of a child's eye. Inside, my mother's face, screaming silently. I crushed it under my heel. Black fluid sprayed. It spelled one word before evaporating. Sunister 5, footprints of holy water. The crushed obsidian bead left a stain on the marble that wouldn't wipe away. No matter how many times I scrubbed with the hem of my shirt, it looked like a tiny starburst, or a pupil dilated in terror. When the overhead fluorescence flickered, the stain winked. I was still on my knees in the mirror room when the grate at the far ends screeched open. Chiara stumbled through, habit half burned away, scar split wide and glowing like molten silver. In her left hand, the flaming sword, now reduced to a stub of white-hot metal. In her right, a child's shoe, small, leather, soaked through, Vatican issue, circa 1950s. She dropped the shoe. It landed with a wet plop. Holy water pooled around it, steaming. Rule 29, she rasped, voice raw from smoke or screaming. If the child leaves a gift, do not return it. She collapsed against the wall. The sword clinker hissed out on the floor. I crawled to her, pressing fingers to her neck, pulse thready, but there. Her eyes found mine, pupils blown wide. "It spoke your name," she whispered, "full tria nomina. The cord is knotted now. We have until lauds, 2 hours, to burn the knot." She tried to stand. Her knees buckled. I caught her, felt the heat radiating from her scar like a branding iron under the charred fabric. Her skin was inked, letters crawling across her collarbone. Lucetta was here. I tore a strip from my undershirt, bound the worst of the burns. The mirror room. Did it work? For now. She nodded at the shattered reflections. But shards carry memory. Every piece will try to reassemble. We need the font of Saint Gregory, sub-level 13. It's the only water still consecrated by a pope who drowned a demon. She handed me the child's shoe. "Bait." I stared. You want me to carry this? Rule 30. The child follows its own skin. She forced my fingers around the sole. It was warm, pulsing, like a heart. We moved. The service corridors here were older than the Renaissance. Etruscan brick, sweating moisture that smelled of catacombs and forgotten sins. Emergency lanterns swung from chains, casting shadows that lagged half a second behind us. Every footstep echoed twice, ours, and a smaller set, pitter patter, always 3 paces back. Kiara leaned on me, limping. Don't look behind. Rule 31. The echo has teeth. We reached a spiral stair carved into living tufa. Down, always down. The air thickened, pressing on my eardrums like altitude sickness in reverse. At the bottom, a bronze door sealed with 7 wax plugs, each stamped with a different papal ring. Kiara pressed the child's shoe against the center plug. The wax melted on contact, running like blood. The door swung inward on silent hinges. Sub-level 13, the font of Saint Gregory, a cavernous baptistery, circular, domed with a fresco of the flood, Noah's Ark upside down, animals swimming up toward heaven. In the center, a sunken pool, 8-sided, fed by a single copper pipe dripping from the ceiling. The water was black, not dark, black. Light fell into it and didn't come back. Kiara knelt at the edge, dipped 2 fingers. The surface rippled, forming words. Welcome home, Luceto. She didn't flinch. Rule 32. The font knows your baptismal sins. Confess them aloud to enter. I hesitated. The child's shoe in my hand squirmed. Tiny toes flexed inside the leather. Kiara's eyes bored into me. Now. The words spilled out, uglier in the open air. I lied on my mother's grave, said I didn't hear her scream. I did. I was afraid of the dark. I let them close the case. The water bubbled. A single bubble rose, popped. The scent of mountain pine and wet earth. Dolomites, 1997. Kiara nodded. Good. Truth is acid to the child. She took the shoe, hurled it into the pool. It sank without a splash. The water turned clear, crystal, almost luminous. At the bottom, a child's skeleton, curled fetal, rosary wrapped around its neck like a noose. Kiara stripped off what remained of her habit, revealing a body mapped in scars and script, Latin, Greek, Aramaic, verses branded into flesh. She stepped into the font. The water rose to her waist, then her chest, then her chin. She didn't sink. Rule 33, she called, voice echoing. Immerse the marked hand. Let the water read the knot. I rolled up my sleeve. The hole in my palm, from the crushed bead, had scabbed over in the shape of a key. I plunged it in, cold, not temperature, absence, like dipping into space between stars. The scab dissolved. Blood swirled out, forming letters that floated. Luceto Matteo Rossi. Namel's child, Fonks 1. The water tightened around my wrist like a cuff. Visions slammed into me. My mother, age 28, pregnant, standing in this same font, a cardinal pressing a quill to her belly. The child's shoe, my shoe, kicked off during baptism. The nameless child's newborn, eyes already black, reaching for the rosary around the priest's neck. I yanked my hand back. The water followed, climbing my arm in a sleeve of liquid night. Kiara grabbed my collar, hauled me in fully. We sank, not drowning, falling upward through water that wasn't water. Memories rushed past. Age 5. hiding under the convent pews while nuns argued in whispers about the Rossi boy. Age 10, finding my mother's journal. If he hears the call, drown him in mercy. Age 12, the search party finding her habit snagged on a branch. No body. We hit bottom. A stone slab carved with my full name, Tria Nomina, and a date, today. Chiara's mouth moved. No sound. But I read the lips, cut the cord. She pressed the flaming sword stub into my bleeding palm. The metal had cooled to exactly blood temperature. I understood. I sliced. The water screamed, my mother's voice, the child's, 1,000 drowned souls. Black threads erupted from the slab, knitting into an umbilical cord thick as my arm. It pulsed, pumping ink instead of blood. I hacked at it, once, twice. The third strike severed it clean. The cord whipped back, spraying ichor. The font above us boiled. We shot upward like corks. We breached the surface, gasping. The water was clear again, but the skeleton at the bottom was gone. In its place, the child's shoe, now empty, floating. Chiara climbed out first. Her scars had faded to pale lines. She looked 10 years younger. Rule 34, severance buys time, not freedom. The stump will seek a new host. I wrung water from my shirt. My palm was whole. No hole. No scar. But when I flexed my fingers, I felt phantom weight, as if still holding the cord, from the copper pipe overhead. A single drop fell. It hit the font and spread into letters. Mama says hello. Chiara's face hardened. We're not alone. The baptistery doors, bronze, sealed, began to bleed. Rivulets of holy water mixed with crimson ran down the reliefs. The seven sins animated, pride's eyes opened, envy's tongue lolled. Chiara snatched the empty shoe. Run. The font is compromised. Next stop, the index of seven mouths. We name the child before it renames you. We bolted behind us. The font erupted. A geyser of black water shot to the dome, splattering the upside-down arc. Where it touched, the fresco rewrote itself. Noah's animals now had human faces, all screaming. The spiral stair was flooding. We climbed against the tide, ankle deep, then knee deep. The water was warm, alive. It tugged at our legs like hands, halfway up. The child's voice bubbled from below. Lucetto, you left your shoe. Mama's cold. Chiara slipped. I caught her arm. Her scar had reopened, but this time it wept clear, holy water, where it touched the flood. The black water recoiled, hissing. We reached sub-level 11, the mirror room. The shards were reassembling slowly, like a puzzle with a mind. A child's silhouette formed in the central pedestal, pieced from glass and ink. Chiara kicked the forming figure. Shards scattered again. Rule 35, delay the body, starve the name. We didn't stop. Through corridors now ankle deep in the flood. Alarms, deep, sonorous bells tolled from somewhere above, code vermilion. We burst into a scriptorium I hadn't seen before. Long tables, vellum stacks, quills standing in rows like soldiers. At the far end, a wall of iron drawers, each labeled with a mouth symbol, open, closed, screaming, the index of seven mouths. Chiara yanked open drawer number 1. Inside, a tongue, real, preserved in amber. It twitched. Rule 36, she said, voice trembling for the first time. To name the child. We feed it a name it cannot digest. She sliced her palm with the sword stub, pressed the bleeding cut to the tongue. It swallowed the blood, then spoke in my mother's voice. Maria Rossi offers her silence, accepted, but the boy's name is sweeter. Drawer number 2 opened itself. Another tongue, this one forked. Black. Kiara hesitated. We need a memory, the one you confessed in the font. Give it willingly, or it takes everything. I stepped forward. The flood lapped at my heels, rising fast. I pressed my palm to the forked tongue. The memory poured out, age 12. Hearing her scream, freezing. The tongue savored it, growing fat. It spoke. Luca Matteo Rossi, son of Maria, blood of. Chiara slapped a silver seal over its tip. The tongue writhed, muffled. Rule 37. Seal the mouth before it finishes the sentence. She slammed the drawer, locked it with a key from her rosary. The flood reached our waists. From the drawers, muffled pounding, the other 5 mouths waking. Chiara grabbed my wrist. We have one shot. The 7th mouth is the hollow pontiff. If we name the child before it names you, a crack split the ceiling. Black water cascaded down. In it, the child, riding the wave like a surfer, arms outstretched. Found you. Chiara shoved me toward a side door. Index safe. Go. We dove through as the scriptorium collapsed behind us. The last thing I saw, the tongues bursting from their drawers, stitching themselves into a single, massive mouth, screaming my name. The door sealed. We were in a narrow ossuary tunnel, walls lined with tibiae and femurs arranged in Latin phrases, memento mori, memento nomen. Chiara was bleeding heavily now. She pressed the sealed tongue, now a writhing lump, into my hand. Rule 38. Carry the partial name. It burns the child from within. The lump bit me. I didn't let go. Ahead, a faint glow, sub-level 13's emergency exit, but between us and it, footprints, small, bare, filled with holy water that hadn't been there seconds ago. Leading toward us, Chiara's eyes met mine. Rule 39. When the footprints walk backward, the child is already ahead. She drew the sword stub, now just a glowing ember. I'll hold the rear. You run. Find Cardinal Moretti. Tell him the knot is cut, but the stump bleeds. He'll know. I hesitated. What about you? Her smile was terrible. I've been bait since 2003. She kissed the sealed tongue, whispered a benediction, and swallowed it whole, her scar sealed shut. Her eyes turned black, then clear again. Go. I ran. The footprints followed, faster now, splashing. The tunnel narrowed. Bones clattered from the walls, reassembling into tiny skeletons that scuttled after me like crabs. I burst into the emergency stairwell. Above, daylight, distant. Below, the flood, rising. Halfway up, the marker rosary, reassembled somehow, burned against my chest. All 13 beads. The obsidian one now held a miniature font. Inside, my mother, pounding on the glass. Her mouth formed one word. Run, I climbed. Behind me. Chiara's voice, amplified, demonic, echoed up the shaft. Lucero Matteo Rossi, I name thee mine. The stairs trembled. Water surged. I didn't look back. Chapter 6. The Index of 7 Mouths. The stairwell spat me out into the cloister of Bramante at dawn. Rosy light, slicing through the arches like judgment. My lungs burned with incense and floodwater. The sealed tongue in my fist had gone still, but I could feel it digesting Chiara's blood, growing heavier with each heartbeat. Swiss guards patrolled the perimeter, halberds glinting. One started toward me, then froze. His eyes widened at the rosary, 13 beads. Obsidian numbers 13 now cracked, leaking black fluid that hissed on the stone. He crossed himself and backed away. Rule 40. The marked are untouchable until the cardinal decrees otherwise. I staggered across the courtyard. The sealed tongue pulsed once, thump like a second heart. Inside, Kiara's voice, muffled, index, now, before the stump grafts. The apostolic library's side entrance was unguarded. The door, ancient oak bound in iron, swung open at my touch. Inside, silence so thick it rang, rows of incunabula stretched into shadow, ladders on rails like gallows. At the central desk, a single lamp, and Cardinal Moretti. He was younger than I expected, 50s, lean, eyes the color of glacial ice, cassock immaculate, pectoral cross a solid slab of onyx. He didn't look up from the ledger he was annotating. Rossi, he said, voice smooth as oiled steel. You're early and wet. I dropped the sealed tongue on the desk. It landed with a wet splat, writhing. Black veins spidered across the vellum ledger. Moretti finally glanced up. Ah, the partial name. Sister Chiara's handiwork? He prodded it with a silver letter opener, shaped like a tongue depressor. The lump hissed. Impressive. She bought us 12 minutes. He rose, towering. Rule 41. The index opens only for blood that remembers its own baptism. He sliced his palm, deep, deliberate. Blood welled, thick as syrup. He smeared it across a section of bookshelf. The wood absorbed it, grains swelling. A hidden panel slid aside, revealing a spiral stair descending into crimson light. We went down, sub-level 7 again, but different. The 7 confessionals were gone. In their place, a circular pit, 13 feet across, ringed by 7 iron lecterns. Each held a mouth, not metaphor, actual mouths, as severed at the jaw, reserved in crystal jars. They breathed, they waited. The index of 7 mouths, Moretti gestured. Rule 42. Feed the mouths in order, skip one, and the child devours the sequence. He opened jar number 1. The mouth inside was small, child-sized, lips blue. It smiled when it saw me. I hesitated. The sealed tongue in my pocket thrashed. Moretti's voice softened. Your mother fed mouth number 3 in 1997. She skipped number 4. That's why the child has her voice. He produced a photograph, Polaroid, edges curled. My mother, younger than I'd ever seen her, kneeling before jar number 3, her mouth open, feeding it a strip of paper. On the paper, Maria Rossi voluntarily silences her son's name. My knees buckled. Moretti caught me. Focus. The stump is grafting. Feel it? I did. In my throat. A lump. Not the tongue. Something growing. Whispering. He opened a Jerchistak. The mouth was adult. Male. Teeth filed to points. It spoke in Aramaic. The second mouth hungers for regret. Moretti looked at me expectantly. I pressed the sealed tongue to my lips. It melted, flowing into my mouth like warm mercury. Chiara's voice filled me. Tell them the cliff. Tell them you froze. The words poured out, hoarse, unstoppable. I heard her scream. I was 12. I had the rope. I let go. The mouth in jar number 2 chewed the confession, swallowing air. It burped black smoke that spelled regret accepted. Jar number 3 opened itself. The mouth was female, my mother's, exact, down to the gap between her front teeth. It didn't speak. It wept. Tears of ink. Moretti's face was stone. Rule 43: the third mouth takes what was freely given. Your mother's silence bought you 28 years. Pay the interest. He handed me a scalpel. I understood. I sliced my tongue shallow. Across the tip, the blood welled. I let it drip into the jar. The mouth drank. My mother's voice, real, not echo. Lusetto, forgive. Then silence. Jar number 4, a baby's mouth, gums only. It cooed. Moretti whispered, innocence, the child's favorite. I had nothing innocent left, but the sealed tongue now inside me offered a memory. Age 3, stealing communion wafers, hiding them under my pillow like treasures. I spoke it aloud. The baby mouth giggled, gums staining red. Jar number 5, an old man's mouth, toothless, muttering Latin backwards. Moretti. Wisdom denied. I confessed the lie I told my thesis advisor, plagiarizing a footnote from a forbidden text. The mouth nodded, satisfied. Jar number 6, a woman's mouth, lips painted Vatican scarlet. Desire, Moretti said. I thought of the novice I'd kissed behind the seminary chapel. Her name, her taste. I whispered it. The mouth purred. Jar number 7, empty. Just a void, no crystal, no preservation. A black hole where a mouth should be. Moretti's voice dropped to a whisper. The hollow pontiff. It speaks last, and only to the keykeeper. He stepped back. The void inhaled. My rosary levitated, beads orbiting the pit like planets. The obsidian Nuxious 13 cracked fully open. Inside, a miniature version of the font, my mother. Pounding on the glass, the void spoke, not sound, but pressure in my skull. Lucetto Matteo Rossi, blood of custodes clavium. Name me, and I name thee Pope of the Abyss. The offer slithered into my bones. Power, knowledge. My mother returned. The church remade. I felt the stump in my throat graft, tendrils reaching for the void. Moretti watched, so unblinking. Rule 44. The seventh mouth lies always. He slammed a silver lid over the jar. The void screamed, a sound like continents tearing. The rosary beads exploded outward, embedding in the walls. The obsidian shard flew into my hand, now a key, black, warm. Moretti took it gently. The key of shadows. Your mother forged it with her silence. Chiara bought it with her voice. Now it's yours. He led me to a hidden alcove. Inside, a pedestal. On it, the Codex Umbrae. Open to page 66. The page was blank. Moretti. Rule 45. The index is complete when the book forgets its own words. Write the name you denied the child. He handed me the obsidian key. It fit my bleeding palm like it was molded there. I pressed it to the blank page. Ink bloomed, not black. Gold. The nameless child is nameless no more. It is bound by the silence of Maria, the voice of Chiara, and the blood of Luca. The codex sighed. Pages flipped on their own, stopping at page 1. The original seal, cracked in the email, was whole again. Moretti closed the book. The knot is burned, but the child is cunning. It will seek another womb. He looked at me, really looked. Your mother's womb was prepared. Yours is fertile. A tremor shook the chamber. Dust sifted from the ceiling. Moretti's eyes narrowed. The hollow pontiff stirs. The convergence begins at vespers. He pressed a new rosary into my hand. Black beads, but warm, human warmth. Rule 46. The new rosary is made of tongues. They will speak when you cannot. We ran. The corridors were flooding again. Not water. Ink. Black. Viscous. Rising fast. It carried faces, translators passed, mouths open in silent screams. We reached the brass elevator. Moretti punched the panel. It lit. Sub-level 13. Font compromised. The doors opened. Inside, Chiara, or what was left. Her habit gone. Skin inked entirely. Moving script. Her eyes, solid black. She smiled with too many teeth. Lucetto, she said. Voice layered, hers, the child's, my mother's. You named me, now I name you. She lunged. Moretti shoved me aside. The obsidian key flew from my hand into Chiara's mouth. She swallowed it. The elevator doors slammed shut. The cage plummeted. Moretti grabbed my collar. Rule 47. When the key is taken, follow the cord. He sliced his wrist, pressed the wound to the floor. Blood formed a line, straight down. We fell through the floor, not metaphor. The stone parted like water. We landed in the font of St. Gregory, now dry. The octagonal pool cracked, empty. At the bottom, the child's shoe, and the umbilical cord, regrown, thicker, pulsing. Chiara dropped from the ceiling, landing cat-like. The key protruded from her throat like a grotesque Adam's apple. She spoke with the hollow pontiff's voice. The convergence is nigh. The door opens at sunset. Moretti drew a circle of salt and blood around us. Rule 48. Salt buys minutes, as blood buys hours. Silence buys eternity. He looked at me. You have one chance, the new rosary. Use the tongues. I raised the black beads. They unfurled actual tongues, wet, writhing. Each whispered a different rule. I chose one, Chiara's. It spoke with her true voice. Lucetto, cut the cord again, but this time, take my place. The implication hit like communion wine on an empty stomach. Sacrifice. Chiara, the possessed Chiara, advanced. The cord dragged behind her like a tail. Moretti handed me the silver letter opener. Rule 49. The keykeeper must choose. Bind the child or become the lock. The cord wrapped my ankle, pulled. I slashed. Not the cord. Chiara's throat. The key flew out, spinning. I caught it midair. Chiara collapsed. Her body deflated, ink pouring from every orifice. The child's scream echoed, betrayer. The cord withered. The font refilled, clear water, blessed. Moretti caught Chiara's body. Her scar was gone, her eyes gray again. Human? She smiled weakly. Rule 50, sometimes the bait bites back. She died in his arms. The codex, wherever it was, slammed shut. I felt it in my bones. Moretti stood. The child is nameless again, but the hollow pontiff has tasted your blood. The convergence is delayed, not stopped. He looked toward the ceiling. Bells tolled. Vespers. We have 6 hours. The ritual chamber is beneath the high altar. Cardinal Volpe leads the cult. Your bloodline is the final seal. He pressed Chiara's rosary into my hand. Now just beads again. Rule 51, carry the dead. They weigh less than regret. We climbed behind us. The font water turned black once more. At the bottom, a new umbilical cord, growing. Toward the surface, toward me. Chapter 7. The mirror that swallowed a cardinal. The climb from the font was a fever dream of stone and sorrow. Chiara's body, light as parchment now, lay draped over Moretti's shoulder like a discarded habit. Her rosary dangled from my fist, beads clicking softly with each step. Click-clack, click-clack, a metronome counting down to vespers. We emerged into the sacristy of St. Peter's. just as the sacristan locked the doors for tourist hours. He took one look at Chiara's corpse, eyes open, scarless, smiling, and dropped his keys. Moretti's onyx cross flashed. The man fled without a word. Rule 52, Moretti murmured, laying Chiara on a vestment table. The dead are invisible to the faithful until the bell tolls thrice. He arranged her hands in prayer, slipped her own rosary between her fingers. The beads melted into her skin, leaving faint blue veins. A final blessing, or a seal. We moved through side chapels, past Michelangelo's Pietà, shrouded for cleaning. The air grew heavier, scented with beeswax and old bones. Moretti led me to a door hidden behind the tapestry of the resurrection, a door no guidebook mentions. Behind it, a narrow stair spiraling down beneath the high altar. The walls wept condensation that tasted of iron. At the bottom, the speculum chamber, a perfect dodecahedron, each face a mirror of polished obsidian, no seams, no entrance visible once the door sealed, the only light, 12 candles floating midair, flames inverted, burning upward into darkness. In the center, a single pedestal. On it, a mirror taller than a man, framed in cardinal bones, actual metacarpals and phalanges wired together with gold thread. The glass was liquid mercury, rippling though untouched. Moretti's reflection appeared fractured, dozens of him, each a different age, all staring at me. Rule 53, he said, voice echoing from every surface. The speculum shows what the soul owes. Pay the debt or become the interest. He pressed his bleeding palm to the frame. The bones drank. The mercury mirror solidified into glass. My reflection appeared, pale, soaked, eyes ringed with exhaustion. But beside me, Chiara, alive, smiling, her scar glowing. She raised a hand. I mirrored it without thinking. Moretti's voice sharpened. Rule 54, do not sink. The mirror synchronizes to steel. I dropped my hand. Chiara's reflection did not. It stepped forward, pressing against the glass from inside. Luceto, she said, her voice, but layered with the child's giggle. You left me in the font. Come finish the story. The real Moretti, beside me, drew a circle of salt around the pedestal. The chamber is a confessional for the damned, to sever the child's claim. You must confess what you haven't told anyone, not even yourself. He handed me a silver stylus. Write it on the mirror. The glass remembers. I approached. The mercury had frozen into a perfect pane. My breath fogged it. I wrote, I wanted her to die. The words hung, dripping silver. Chiara's reflection tilted her head. Truth, delicious. The mirror cracked, a hairline fracture from the final period. Through it, a glimpse of the font, black water. My mother's face pressed against the underside of the surface, screaming silently. Moretti nodded. Good. Now the price. He sliced his other palm, pressed both to the glass. Blood ran in rivulets, forming letters. Cardinal Antonio Moretti pays with his reflection. His image in the mirror aged rapidly, hair graying, a skin sagging, eyes sinking. The real Moretti remained unchanged, but the reflection stepped out, a doppelganger, identical, but wrong, eyes too bright, smile too wide. It bowed to me. Rule 55. The chamber trades lives for lies. I give mine to buy your confession. The doppelganger dissolved into smoke. sucked into the crack. The fracture widened. Through it, the index pit, the 7 mouths, now fused into one massive maw, lined with cardinal bones. Chiara's reflection laughed. 1 down, 6 to go. Moretti, real Moretti, staggered. Blood poured from his ears. Hurry, the hollow pontiff stirs. I wrote again. I heard the child call before Mama disappeared. I ignored it. The mirror shattered outward. Shards hung midair, each showing a different memory. Age 4, the child's whisper in the convent crib. Play with me, Lucetto? I pulled the blanket over my head. Age 7, finding the child's shoe in Mama's drawer. I hid it. Age 12, the cliff. The child's voice. Push her. She'll thank you. I froze. The shards spun, forming a vortex. Chiara's reflection reached through, fingers elongating into quills. Moretti shoved me aside. A shard sliced his cheek. Blood hit the floor, sizzled where it landed. Bones grew, tiny, child-sized. Rule 56. The chamber feeds on unpaid debts. Pay with the memory you cherish. He pressed his forehead to the vortex. Take my ordination, the day I became priest. The shards devoured the memory. Moretti gasped, eyes glazing. He forgot the taste of communion wine, the feel of the stole. Chiara's reflection lunged further, arm through the crack now, elbow deep. I wrote my final truth. I'm glad she's gone. The whispers stopped. The vortex exploded, shards embedded in the walls, each sprouting ink roots that crawled toward the ceiling. The mirror reformed, whole again. But now it showed me inside the font, drowning. My mother outside, pounding on the glass. Real me. The reflection mouthed, your turn. Moretti, memory half gone, grabbed my arm. The trade is accepted, but the chamber keeps a souvenir. He pointed to my hand. The obsidian key was gone. In its place, a shard embedded in my palm, edge protruding like a fang. Chiara's reflection smiled. See you at the altar, keykeeper. The candles snuffed. Darkness. When light returned, emergency red. The mirror was blank. The bones in the frame, one missing. A gap where a cardinal's finger should be. Moretti's voice was hollow. Rule 57. The chamber always takes more than offered. We have 4 hours until Vespers. The ritual begins beneath the altar. Volpe needs your blood and the key shard. He led me out. The stair was different, wider, lined with mirrors now. Each showed a different Chiara, burned, drowned, inked, smiling. At the top, the sacristy door opened onto the basilica proper. Tourists milled, oblivious. But the high altar, Bernini's baldacchino, throbbed, bronze columns twisting slowly, like screws. Moretti whispered, Rule 58. The convergence starts with a heartbeat. Yours. My palm itched. The embedded shard pulsed. Through it, I saw, beneath the altar, a door, porta inferi, cracking open, black water seeping up through the confession grill, and in the water, thousands of child shoes, floating, waiting. One drifted closest. Inside, my mother's foot, still wearing the habit. It waved. The shard in my palm turned, cutting deeper. Blood dripped onto the marble, forming letters. Come alone, or I take them all. The basilica bells began to toll. Not vespers, death knell. Moretti grabbed my wrist. We fight, or we run. But the shard spoke, the child's voice, intimate as a lover. Run, and Mama drowns forever. Fight, and you open the door with your own hands. Choose, Lucetto. The altar awaits its pope. The shard sliced clean through my palm, fell to the floor. It wasn't a shard anymore. It was a key, black, warm, beaten, and engraved on it. Lucero Matteo Rossi, Pontifex Umbrae. The basilica went dark. Every light, every candle, in the blackness, footsteps, small, bare, multiplying. Click clack, click clack, the child's shoes, marching toward me. Chapter 8. The Priest Who Forgot His Own Face. The darkness in St. Peter's was absolute. No emergency lights, no glow from the confessionals, only the click-clack of the child's shoes. Now a chorus, echoing off the dome like hail on a coffin lid. Moretti's hand clamped my wrist, his pulse racing, but his grip iron. Rule 59, he whispered. When the shoes march, follow the sound backward. It leads to the breach. We moved against the tide of phantom footsteps. My palm, where the key shard had been, gaped open. A wet slit leaking black fluid that crawled up my forearm like veins seeking a new heart. The fluid itched from inside, burrowing under the skin, forming raised script, Pontifex Umbrae. Moretti noticed. Rule 60. Ink under flesh is the child's tattoo. Burn it out before it spells your coronation. He produced a votive candle from his pocket, unlit, pressed the wick to my leaking wound. The black fluid ignited with a whoosh, blue flame racing up my arm. Pain exploded, white hot, surgical. I bit back a scream as the fire cauterized the script, charring the letters into scar tissue. The smell, burning parchment and my own cooking meat. The flame died. The marching stopped. Silence. Then a wet rip from the high altar, a sound like Velcro tearing, but deeper, flesh from bone. We crept forward. The baldacchino's bronze columns were sweating, black ichor oozing from the seams, pooling on the marble in the center. Beneath the dove of the Holy Spirit, Father Marco, or what had been Father Marco, he knelt, back to us. Cassock shredded, his skin moved, undulating like a sack of eels. The fabric clung where it shouldn't, sagging, then inflating with something pushing from within. Marco, Moretti called, voice steady. The figure turned. Body horror doesn't begin to cover it. Father Marco's face was gone, not destroyed, erased. A smooth expanse of skin stretched over where features should be. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just pores weeping clear fluid that hardened into wax as it dripped. His hands, still gloved in liturgical lace, were elongating, fingers splitting like banana peels, revealing quills beneath the skin. The quills rode on the air, leaving trails of ink that hung like smoke. I forgot my name. The cassock split down the back, from the tear, tendrils, not tentacles, scriptures, rolled vellum unfurling from his spine, pages wet with bile, inked in blood, each page a different exorcism rite. But the words were backwards, crawling off the parchment and burrowing into his flesh. He spoke without a mouth. The voice issued from the quills, scratching. Lusetto, you named me, now I unname him. Marco's body convulsed. His ribcage opened like a book, sternum cracking along a hinge of cartilage. Inside, not organs, books, stacks of miniature codices, bound in what looked like human skin, pulsing. One book, Codex Umbrae in thumbnail size, beat like a heart. Moretti crossed himself. Rule 61, when the priest becomes the page, bind the book. He lunged. Silver letter opener flashing, Marco's quill fingers parried, slicing Moretti's forearm. Blood sprayed, gold, not red, papal blood. Marco's blank face rippled, the skin stretched thinner, translucent, beneath sighs, hundreds, all mine. Lucetto's eyes, blinking out of sync, the quills wrote faster. His face is mine now. Marco's head swelled, skin splitting along the hairline. From the fissure, ink, thick, viscous, pouring over the smooth expanse. It molded features, my nose, my mouth, my scarless cheeks. The new face smiled with my teeth. Lucetto, it said with my voice, help me remember. The body horror escalated. Marco's arms lengthened, bones cracking, elongating into quills the size of swords. His legs fused, knees reversing with a wet pop, turning him into a praying mantis of flesh and scripture. The cassock remnants sloughed off like shed skin, revealing a torso covered in open books, pages flapping, words crawling like lice. Moretti tackled me aside as a quill sword impaled the marble where I'd stood. The tip wrote on the floor, Keykeeper bleeds. My palm wound reopened. The black fluid boiled. From it, the key shard, regrown, larger. It pushed out of my flesh, tearing muscle, emerging slick and beating. Marco's borrowed face melted, my features sloughing off in strips, revealing the blank expanse again. But now the eyes, my eyes, migrated, crawling across the skin like spiders, settling into new positions. One in the forehead, one in the cheek, blinking, weeping ink. The miniature codex in his open ribcage grew, pages unfurling, binding to his lungs. He inhaled, pages fluttered, exhaled, ink smoke. Moretti chanted in Latin, voice rising, Exorcismus te, omnis immundus spiritus. Marco's body responded. The quills wrote the rite on the air, but backwards, the words erased themselves, sucking the exorcism into the blank face. The skin absorbed the chant, bulging like a balloon. Rule 62, Moretti gasped. When the body becomes the text, burn the margins. He produced a flask, holy water mixed with phosphorus, hurled it. The liquid ignited midair, a fireball engulfing Marco. The body screamed, not vocally, but textually, words blistering off the pages. It burns, flesh melted, quills curled like burning paper. The miniature codex in his chest caught, pages charring, but the blank face remained, skin bubbling, reforming. Marco's melting form crawled toward me, fingers, now stubs of wax, left trails of molten scripture. The eyes, my eyes, popped from the skin, rolling across the floor like marbles. One stopped at my foot, blinked, winked. The torso split fully. From the cavity, the child, not born, printed, a newborn form, skin made of vellum, eyes inked dots. It unfolded from the ribs like origami, limbs extending with wet rips. Moretti grabbed a bronze candelabrum, swung it like a club. The child's vellum head caved, ink spraying, but the damage rewrote itself, creases smoothing, features redrawing. Rule 63, Moretti roared. The printed child cannot be destroyed, only over-inked. He seized the key shard from my bleeding palm, jammed it into the child's chest. The vellum absorbed it, swelling. The child inflated, pages multiplying inside, stretching the skin translucent. I understood. The index tongues. I raised Chiara's rosary. The beads unfurled again, tongues, wet, eager. I hurled them into the child's open mouth. The tongues burrowed, the child gagged, body convulsing, ink poured from every orifice, black, then gold, then clear. The vellum skin dissolved, pages peeling away layer by layer. Marco's remains collapsed into a puddle of wax and ash. The child's form deflated, shrinking to a single page. On it, my face, smiling. The page fluttered to the floor, landed face up. The eyes blinked. The mouth moved. Page 66 is blank. Write your coronation. Pope Luceto. Moretti stomped it. The page squelched under his heel, ink spraying, but the ink crawled up his leg, forming letters on his cassock. The hollow pontiff rises. A tremor shook the basilica. The high altar cracked. From the fissure, black water, rising. Moretti's face, pale now. The convergence accelerates. Volpe has begun without us. He grabbed my arm. The ritual chamber, now. We ran. The puddle of Marco's remains bubbled. From it, a hand, not flesh, wax. Fingers fusing into a single quill. It wrote on the marble, "I'll borrow another face." The black water from the altar followed, tendrils snaking across the floor. Where it touched the wax hand, the quill grew, piercing the stone, anchoring. Moretti dragged me through a side door, into the Vatican grottos. The air here, crypt cold, thick with myrrh and decay. Behind us, the quill hand pulled, Marco's body reforming from the puddle, taller now, limbs elongated, skin a patchwork of vellum and wax. The blank face rippled again, this time forming Moretti's features. The new Marco Moretti smiled with the cardinal's mouth. Eyes, mine. Rule 64, the thing said in Moretti's voice. The priest who forgets his face wears the nearest one. It lunged. Moretti, the real one, shoved me ahead. The chamber. I'll hold it. He drew the onyx cross. It ignited. Black flame. I ran. The grottos twisted. Tombs of popes. Bones arranged in patterns. The black water followed, rising to my ankles. In it, reflections. Not mine. Chiara's, drowned, inked, smiling. At the end, a door of bone, labeled Porta Inferi, keykeeper only. My palm wound opened wider. The key shard inside pushed, emerging fully. It fit the lock. I turned it. The door sighed open. Beyond, the ritual chamber. Candles of human fat. Volpe at the altar, arms raised. The hollow pontiff's skeletal hand emerging from the stone. Behind me, footsteps, wet, wax dripping. Marco Moretti's voice. You can't outrun the page. Luceto, I'm the margin now. I stepped through, the door sealed, but the key in my hand melted, flowing into my wound, sealing it. From the other side, scratching quills on bone. I'll write myself in. The scratching intensified. The door bulged inward, wax seeping through the cracks, forming words. Page 66 begins, Chapter 9, Bloodline of the Keykeepers. The door sealed behind me with a sound like a lung collapsing, wet, final, exhaling centuries of crypt air that tasted of rust and forgotten incense. The key melt in my palm burned cold, fusing to bone with a sizzle I felt in my teeth. The scent, my own flesh cauterizing, mixed with the metallic tang of papal blood from Moretti's earlier cuts. The ritual chamber beneath the high altar was a womb of stone and shadow. The air thrummed, low, subsonic, vibrating in my sternum like a second heartbeat. It smelled of hot wax, old blood, and something sweeter, milk gone sour. The kind left in a chalice too long, walls, rough-hewn travertine, weeping condensation that dripped in slow, Deliberate plops. Each drop hit the floor and spread into tiny script, Latin fragments that evaporated before I could read them. The sounds, plink, plink, echoing off the vaulted ceiling, where frescoes of the apocalypse had been overpainted in black ichor. Angels' wings dripped like melting candles. In the center, the altar, not marble, bone, a slab of fused papal tibiae and femora, polished to a sheen, atop it, Cardinal Volpe, robes crimson, not cardinalatial scarlet, fresh blood, still wet, clinging to the fabric like a second skin. The smell, copper and frankincense, thick enough to chew. Volpe's eyes, solid gold, no pupils. They reflected the chamber upside down, as if he saw through a lens of molten metal. His voice, layered, a choir of popes long dead. Lucetto Matteo Rossi, Custos Clavium, the bloodline returns. The key in my palm pulsed, sinking to the chamber's thrum. I tasted iron, my blood, or the altar's. Volpe raised his arms, sleeves fell back, revealing skin inked with genealogy trees, branches of names, leaves of dates. My family name snaked up his forearm, Rossi in bold uncials, roots delving into his wrist veins. Rule 65, he intoned, voice vibrating the candles. Human fat, flames the color of bruised plums. The keykeeper's blood remembers the lock. Yours sings the loudest. He gestured. The altar cracked open along a seam of gold leaf. From within, a font smaller than St. Gregory's, but deeper, black water, mirror still. The surface rippled without wind, forming my face, distorted, mouth open in silent scream. The smell intensified, amniotic fluid, baptismal oil, and beneath it, rot, sweet, cloying, like lilies left in a confessional. Volpe dipped a chalice, skullcap of some saint, into the font. The water clung to the bone, viscous. He drank. His throat bulged, Adam's apple splitting into quills that retracted with a wet snick. Your mother tasted this, he said, wiping his lips, black residue smeared like lipstick. Maria Rossi, 1997. She begged for mercy. We gave her purpose. A hologram? No, a memory, projected from the font. Holographic water droplets hung midair, each containing a scene. Mama, pregnant. In this chamber, Volpe, younger, pressing the quill to her belly, the fetus kicking in Morse code. Her scream, not pain. Recognition. The child's shoe, my shoe, kicked off during the ritual, floating in the font. The droplets burst. Water sprayed my face, warm, salty, tasted of tears. Volpe stepped closer, his breath, myrrh and decay. Rule 66. The bloodline is the hinge. Your mother swung the door. You are the door. He seized my wrist. The key wound opened wider, flesh parting like petals, blood welled, gold, papal. It dripped into the font. The water boiled, bubbles popping with tiny screams. The altar spoke, bones grinding. Keykeeper, feed me. Volpe produced a genealogy scroll, parchment thin as onion skin, inked in umbilical blood. He unrolled it across the altar, my name at the bottom, connected by a red line to every Rossi back to the 14th century. Custodes clavium, he whispered, guardians of the keys, forged when Pope Clement V fled Avignon. He bargained with the hollow pontiff for refuge, payment, a bloodline to open Porta Inferi when the stars aligned. The scroll animated, names glowed, then bled cis ink ran, pooling into a map, Vatican City. but upside down, St. Peter's inverted, the obelisk a spike piercing heaven. Volpe's finger traced the line to my name. Your mother resisted, tried to drown the call in the Dolomites. We retrieved her. The child kept her voice. You kept the key. He pressed a dagger, obsidian, shaped like the key shard, into my free hand. Rule 67. To complete the line, carve your name into the altar. The hollow pontiff rises with the final stroke. The altar hungered, bones shifted, forming a groove shaped like my signature. I raised the dagger. The chamber inhaled, air rushing in, candles guttering. The black water in the font rose, defying gravity, forming a column. Inside, the hollow pontiff, skeletal, mitre of bone, eyes sockets of void. Its hand, emerged to the wrist, beckoned. The smell, ozone and afterbirth. The sound, a thousand confessions whispered at once. Volpe's gold eyes melted, running down his cheeks like tears. Do it. Lusetto, become the lock, or watch the world drown in what you refused. The dagger trembled. My blood gold dripped onto the altar, where it touched. Bones fused, forming letters. Lusetto. The column of water spoke, the pontiff's voice, gravel and velvet. Carve, and I crown thee. Refuse, and I wear thee. The key in my palm burned. Visions assaulted. Me as Pope of the Abyss, mitre of shadows, ruling a Vatican submerged. Mama, alive but inked, her skin the new codex, pages turning with her breaths. Volpe leaned in, breath hot on my ear. Your mother's last words. Tell Lusetto the door was always his. The dagger descended, but the chamber shifted, the walls breathed, bones in the altar rearranged, forming a new word. Betrayal. Volpe's face cracked, gold eyes leaking. His skin sloughed, revealing not flesh, but parchment. The genealogy scroll was him, his body the map. He screamed, sound of tearing vellum. The parchment skin peeled, revealing the hollow pontiff, wearing him like a robe. The pontiff stepped out fully, skeletal, towering. Volpe's face dangled from its mitre like a mask. Rule 68, the pontiff intoned, voice shaking the candles to wax puddles. The bloodline ends with the betrayer. It seized me, bones cold as glacier ice. The key wound widened, flesh parting to reveal the key grown into my radius bone. The pontiff twisted, bone snapped, the key ripped free, trailing sinew, pain white hot, then numb. My arm hung useless, blood gold and black. The pontiff raised the key. The font exploded, black water cascaded, forming a tidal wave. In the wave, everyone, Chiara, Marco, Moretti, drowned, inked, screaming, Mama at the crest, arms outstretched. The pontiff inserted the key into the altar. The bone slab opened like a mouth, ported in fairy. Beyond, a void. Not darkness, absence. The smell, nothing. The sound, silence that deafened. The pontiff turned to me. Your coronation, keykeeper. It pushed. I fell backward, into the void. But the void rejected me, bounced me back like rubber. The pontiff roared. The wave crashed, water solidifying into glass, trapping the drowned inside. I landed on the altar. My severed arm, still holding the dagger, crawled toward me, fingers flexing. The pontiff lunged from the sealed door, scratching quills. Marco Moretti's voice. The margin writes itself in. The door splintered. Wax and vellum poured through. The pontiff smiled with Volpe's melting face. Page 66 is you, Lusetto. The book closes with your scream. The glass wave shattered. The drowned fell out. Kiara first. Skin inked. Eyes gold. She smiled. Rule 69. The betrayed become the ink. They advanced. The altar swallowed me. Chapter 10. The ritual beneath the basilica. The altar swallowed me whole, bones parting like jaws, the slab closing with a crunch that echoed in my marrow, darkness absolute, but not empty. The air pressed, thick as amniotic fluid, tasting of salt and sanctified wine gone to vinegar. Sound, my heart beat, amplified, thudding against the bone walls like a prisoner in a coffin. Then light, faint, crimson, from the key wound in my severed arm, still crawling toward me across the inner surface of the altar. The stump ached with phantom pain, nerves firing in Morse. Come back. The chamber beneath the basilica was a reverse cathedral, vaulted ceiling of roots and papal ribs, floor a mosaic of miters fused into stone. In the center, porta in fairy, not a door, a wound in reality. Jagged edges pulsing, black water seeping out in rhythmic gushes, each pulse sinking to the basilica bells above. Dong, dong. Vespers approaching. Cardinal Volpe, or what wore him, stood at the wound's edge. The parchment skin had fully peeled, hanging in strips like banners. Beneath, the hollow pontiff, skeletal frame draped in Volpe's flayed flesh, mitre a crown of finger bones. Its voice, choir of drowned popes. Lucetto, the hinge arrives. The severed arm reached me. Fingers, quills now, dug into my thigh, reattaching with wet pops. Nerves reconnected in agony, fire racing up to my shoulder. The key, embedded in the bone, glowed. Volpe Pontiff raised the obsidian dagger. Rule 70, the ritual requires 3 offerings. Blood, name, reflection, you provide all. The black water rose, forming tendrils that sniff the air like hounds. Smell, ozone, afterbirth, burning libraries. First offering, blood. The pontiff sliced its own wrist, Volpe's wrist. Gold blood sprayed, hitting the porta. The wound healed instantly, but the blood lived, crawling into the cracks, widening them. Your turn, tendrils lashed my reattached arm. The key wound tore open wider. Gold-black blood poured. The porta drank, edges stretching like a mouth yawning. Second offering, name. The pontiff inhaled. My tria nomina echoed from its ribcage. Lucetto Matteo Rossi. Each syllable ripped a memory. Mama's lullaby. Gone. Chiara's scar touch. Gone. My first confession. Gone. The void in my mind filled with the child's giggle. Third offering. Reflection. The black water mirrored the chamber, upside down. In it, me, but wrong. Eyes gold, skin inked with the genealogy tree. The reflection stepped out. Doppelganger Lucetto smiled with my teeth. Hello, Pope. It embraced me, skin to skin, cold, wet. Where we touched, my flesh merged. I felt my thoughts bleeding into it. The pontiff chanted. The porta yawned wider. From within, hands. Thousands, drowned translators, popes, keykeepers, reaching. The doppelganger whispered, Rule 71. The reflection rules when the original kneels. It forced me down. My knees hit the bone mosaic. The key in my arm detached, floating to the pontiff's hand. The ritual crested. Bells above told the final vespers note, dong holding, vibrating the chamber. The porta opened fully. Beyond, nothing. A void that sucked light, sound, soul. But in the center, a throne, bone and gold. Waiting. The pontiff crowned the doppelganger with Volpe's flayed face. Rise, Pontifex Umbrae. The doppelganger sat. The throne accepted. The void poured out, black water cascading, flooding the chambers an ankle deep, knee deep. Real me, original me, drowned in it. Water filled lungs. But I didn't die. I watched from inside the doppelganger's eyes as the flood rose to the basilica above. Screams, tourists, Swiss guards. The Pietà melted, Michelangelo's marble Mary weeping black tears. The doppelganger, me, raised the key. The porta sealed behind the throne, locked from the inside. I was trapped in my own reflection, ruling hell from a throne of bones. But the key in the doppelganger's hand cracked, a hairline fracture. From it, Chiara's voice, faint. Rule 72. The reflection shatters when the original screams the true name. The flood reached the dome, St. Peter's inverted, sinking into the void. The doppelganger smiled, my smile. Too late. The fracture spread, the key shattered, the throne crumbled as I fell out of the reflection, back into my body. The flood receded, sucked back into the porta. The pontiff roared. Volpe's flayed face sloughed off, revealing the skeleton's true skull. My face, but ancient, eyeless. The porta slammed shut, but not before one hand escaped, the hollow pontiff's, clutching the shattered key pieces. The chamber collapsed, bones raining. I crawled through debris. The doppelganger empty now, a husk crumpled from the sealed porta, scratching, the hand pushing, fingers elongating, reassembling the key from shards. A voice, mine, but from the void. The coronation is delayed. Lusetto, not canceled. See you at midnight mass. Bring the congregation. The hand withdrew. The porta sealed with a wet kiss, but the key shards embedded in the bone floor, forming a map, Vatican City, but infected, black veins spreading outward, toward Rome, toward the world. The bells above tolled midnight, hours early. The infection begins. Chapter 11, Code Vermilion, Pipes of Damnation. The basilica above screamed, not metaphor, literal. The dome's frescoes peeled, saints' faces contorting as black veins spidered across the plaster. The sound, wet canvas ripping, layered with 1,000 confessions reversed. My name, Lusetto, echoed in every tongue, rising in pitch until my eardrums throbbed. I burst from the ritual chamber into the grottos. The air, suffocating, thick with incense, turned rancid, like a thurible left burning for centuries. The temperature plummeted, breath fogging, then freezing midair into ice crystals that sliced my cheeks. The key shards in the floor pulsed, each beat, a heartbeat not mine. The black veins spread, cracking marble, burrowing into the walls where they touched bone niches. The Pope's skeletons animated, jaws clacking, finger bones scrabbling at their tombs. Code Vermilion sirens, deep, guttural, like a dying wail, blared from hidden speakers. The sound vibrated in my teeth, my spine. Red strobes flashed, painting everything in arterial light. Moretti's voice crackled over the intercom, distorted, layered with static and wet gurgling. All personnel, Code Vermilion, porta breach, pipes compromised. Repeat, pipes compromised. The holy water pipes overhead burst. Not water, black sludge, viscous, steaming, smelling of baptismal fonts left to rot. It cascaded in sheets, sizzling on contact with stone, where it splattered, script, my name, over and over, crawling like ants. I ran. The grottos twisted into labyrinth, corridors narrowing, ceilings lowering until I ducked. The sludge chased, tendrils lashing my heels, burning through my shoes, the soles melted, flesh blistering, pain white hot, the numb as nerves died. Swiss guards barricaded a junction, halberds crossed, faces pale under helmets. One shouted, "Halt! Marker check!" I raised my hand. The key wound gaped, gold black blood dripping. The rosary Chiara's shredded, tongues writhing in agony. The guard's eyes widened. One crossed himself, the other raised his halberd toward me. Contaminated, Protocol Omega. The sludge surged. A wave engulfed them. Armor melted, flesh sloughing. Their screams gargled, then silent. The halberds twisted, forming a crude cross. The sludge wrote on it, Lucetta was here. Moretti's voice again, closer. From a side corridor, Rossi, east stair, now. I dove through a side door, the stairwell, flooded ankle deep in sludge. Each step sucked at my feet, pulling. The walls wept black tears that hissed on contact. Halfway up, Chiara, or the thing wearing her. She blocked the stair, habit inked, scar glowing crimson. Her eyes, gold, swirling. The sealed tongue, grown, protruded from her mouth like a grotesque tie. Lucetto, she croaked, voice layered, hers, the child's, the pontiff's. The pipes sing your coronation hymn. She retched, the tongue extended, forking into quills. They stabbed the walls, injecting sludge. The stair cracked, chunks falling into the flood below. I backed down a step. The sludge rose to my knees, burning, numbing. Chiara Thing smiled. Rule 73. The pipes carry the name, inhale, and become the echo. The sludge bubbled. Faces formed, drowned translators, popes, mama. Their mouths opened, inhaled, the air thickened. I gasped, sludge entered my lungs. Taste, iron, milk, damnation. My chest constricted, ribs creaking. Moretti burst from a side hatch, wild-eyed. Onyx cross shattered. Breathe out, now. He slammed a silver canister into my mouth. Holy water aerosol. I exhaled, sludge expelled in a black cloud. The faces shattered. Chiara Thing shrieked. The tongue quills retracted, writhing. Moretti grabbed my collar. The pipes are the child's veins. Volpe rerouted the entire Vatican system. Every font, every sprinkler, infected. We ran. The stair collapsed behind us, sludge cascading like a waterfall. Upper levels, chaos. Tourists trampled, priests praying in circles. The sludge piped through confessionals, spraying from holy water fonts. Where it touched, the possession. A nun's eyes goldened, her habit inked. The main nave, flooded waist deep. The Pietà wept black. Pilgrims floated, faces serene in death. Moretti dragged me to the central confession grill. The breach source, the Porta's artery. The grill bulged. Black water pulsed beneath, thudding with the code vermilion sirens. Chiara Thing dropped from the dome, landing cat-like in the flood. The tongue lashed, wrapping Moretti's ankle, pulled. He fell. Sludge closed over his head. I dove. The flood resisted, thick, alive. I grabbed his cassock. The tongue tightened, bones cracking. Moretti's eyes met mine, gold now. Rule 74. When the cardinal drowns, the keykeeper chooses, save him or seal the breach. The tongue dragged him deeper. The grill cracked. The Porta's hand emerged, skeletal. Reassembling the key, Kiara Thing smiled. Choose Lucetto. The pipes need a new pope. The flood rose to my chest. Sirens peaked, ear splitting. The sludge entered my ears, whispering my coronation. Moretti's hand reached, offering the shattered onyx cross. The porta yawned wider. I chose Chapter 12, Crucifix Protocol Omega. The floodwater reached my neck, thick, cloying, tasting of every sin I'd confessed and those I hadn't. Moretti's hand, still clutching the shattered onyx cross, slipped from my grasp. His eyes, gold flecked now, locked on mine. Not fear, resignation, a lifetime of secrets drowning in one breath. Choose, the Kiara Thing gurgled, tongue quills tightening around his ankle. Bubbles rose, his last air. I chose, not him. I plunged the dagger, Volpe's obsidian, into the grill. The porta's hand paused, skeletal fingers curling around the key shards. The metal screamed, high, keening, like a child denied. Moretti's face crumpled, not pain, betrayal. The man who'd guided me, bled for me, forgotten his ordination for me. His mouth formed my name, Lucetto, but the sludge filled it. Gold eyes dimmed. The Kiara Thing laughed, wet, bubbling. The keykeeper sacrifices the shepherd. The flock follows. The flood surged. I clawed upward, lungs burning, broke the surface gasping, the nave pandemonium. Pilgrims thrashed, faces serene in possession. A child, real child, floated past, eyes inked, whispering Mama's lullaby. I swam to the high altar, the baldacchino twisted, bronze columns writhing like serpents. The porta's hand emerged fully, arm now, shoulder. The key reassembled in its grip, clicking into place. The Kiara Thing released Moretti's body. It sank, slow, graceful, cassock billowing like wings. His onyx cross fragments sparkled in the sludge, sinking with him. Grief hit, not abstract, visceral, a hole in my chest wider than the key wound. Moretti, father figure, confessor, betrayer, gone. Because I chose the world over one man, the Kiara Thing climbed the altar, movements jerky, puppet-like. Her scar wept black tears. He knew, Lucetto, knew you'd choose. That's why he gave you the cross. She pried open her habit. Inside, Moretti's heart, still beating, inked with my name. Rule 75. The shepherd's heart powers the seal. She pressed it to the porta. The hand grabbed it, crushing, blood, gold, sprayed. The key turned. The porta yawned. The void poured out, wind first, howling, sucking pews, bodies, souls. The smell, nothingness, but emotional. Every loss I'd ever felt, amplified. Mama's disappearance, Kiara's sacrifice, Moretti's eyes. I clutched the altar, bones ground under my fingers. The pontiff's voice boomed from the void. Welcome the flock, pontifex. The possessed marched, tourists, guards, priests, into the porta, willing, eyes gold, smiles vacant. A mother carried her child, whispering, "It's okay, we're going home." The emotional horror, not violence, acceptance, the world ending with a sigh. I screamed, raw, primal. The sound echoed, amplified by the dome. The Kiara Thing tilted her head. Your scream is the bell, ring it, and crucifix protocol activates. I remembered Moretti's last words, intercom, distorted, crucifix, omega. The cross fragments sunk with him, but Kiara's rosary and tongues wriggled in my pocket, alive. I yanked it out, the tongues unfurled, writhing in agony. One, Kiara's true voice, Lucetto, Use me, end it. Tears burned, not sludge, real. For her, for Moretti, for Mama, trapped in the font. I pressed the rosary to my chest. The tongues burrowed, pain, ecstasy, into my heart. Crucifix Protocol Omega, I whispered. Activate. The tongues exploded outward, silver wires, consecrated. They pierced the flood, the possessed, the porta, nailing everything to invisible crosses. The Chiara thing shrieked, her body convulsed. Ink boiling out. No, the sacrifice. The wires reached the porta, wrapped the pontiff's arm, pulled. The void resisted. The emotional weight, every soul it claimed fought back. Mama's face in the flood, reaching, forgiving. The wires tightened. The arm tore free at the shoulder. The key fell, clattering. The porta slammed shut. The flood receded, sucked back, screaming. The possessed collapsed, human again, gasping, weeping. The nave, silent except for sobs. I fell to my knees. The rosary tongues withdrew, lifeless. Chiara's body empty crumbled to ash. Moretti's surfaced from the draining sludge. Peaceful, but the emotional devastation I'd won, at cost. The loves lost, the innocence shattered, the altar cracked. From the fissure, the key, whole, but stained with my tears. I picked it up. It burned, not heat, memory, Mama's voice. The door was always yours. Close it with love. The bells tolled once, midnight. The infection paused, but from the sealed porta, scratching, rebuilding, a whisper collective. The drowned. The protocol bought hours, not eternity. Midnight Mass calls the congregation. Bring the world, pontifex. The key melted into my palm, permanent. The ash of Chiara and Moretti stirred, forming words. We'll wait inside the emotional horror. Victory tasted of ashes. The ones I loved, gone. The door closed, but latched from the wrong side. I was the lock now, and the key turned in my heart. Chapter 13. The choice at the bone altar. The ash of Chiara and Moretti clung to my skin like a second. Flaking epidermis, dry, itchy, whispering with every breath. Their voices, fragments. Chiara's laugh from a memory I'd never shared. Moretti's final betrayal in his eyes. Gold. Then gone. The emotional void. Not emptiness. Fullness. Stuffed with grief so dense it pressed on my lungs, making each inhale a sob I couldn't release. The nave, devastated. Pews upended. Confessionals splintered. Pilgrims huddled. Rocking, muttering in tongues reversed. A child wept black tears that etched the marble. Mama ware. The porta inferi, sealed but weeping. Black ichor oozed from the cracks, pooling into a mirror. In it, me, but wrong. Eyes sunken, skin translucent, veins inked with the genealogy tree. The reflection smiled, my smile, but knowing, it raised the key, melted into its palm. The emotional horror, recognition. That was me, the part I'd sacrificed everything to avoid, the Pope of the Abyss. The key in my real palm throbbed, sinking. Pain, not physical, soul deep. Every loss replayed. Mama's scream on the cliff, amplified, looping. Chiara's scar splitting as she swallowed the tongue, her trust. Moretti's hand slipping, his forgiveness I didn't deserve. Tears burned, acidic, etching tracks down my cheeks. The ash absorbed them, darkening from the sealed porta, scratching, building. The skeletal hand reforming from bone dust and ichor, fingers elongating, knitting with wet pops. The key shards flying back, embedding in the palm. The pontiff's voice, intimate, fatherly. Luceto, the altar awaits. Choose, bind the child eternally, and erase every soul who ever loved you, or open the door and rule with them beside you forever. The bone altar reformed from the debris, ribs arching, skulls grinning, atop two options. Left, the Codex Umbris, blank page 66, a quill of human hair, Mama's is right, the portkey, beating, the emotional weight, unbearable, bind and forget them, Mama's lullaby gone, Chiara's scar erased, Moretti's sacrifice meaningless, open and keep them, but twisted in the void with me. The reflection in the ichor pool stepped closer, its hand pressed against the surface from below. My hand rose to meet it. Choose, it whispered, my voice, but older, weary. The love you save is the love that damns. The scratching intensified. The porta bulged. The hand pushed through, wrist, elbow. The key in its grip glowed. I picked the quill. The codex opened on its own. Page 66, blank but pulsing, waiting for the binding verse. I dipped the quill in my tears, mixed with ash, the ink, grief. I wrote. By the silence of Maria, Mama's face appeared in the ichor, drowning, reaching, her mouth, don't forget. By the voice of Chiara, Chiara's ash stirred, forming her scar. It smiled, sad, by the blood of Moretti, his heart, crushed by the pontiff, reformed in the pool. Beating once, gold. I bind the nameless eternally. The verse burned into the page, gold fire. The codex slammed shut. The porta shrieked. The hand withdrew, severed at the shoulder. The key fell, shattering into dust. The void recoiled. The possessed gasped, human again. The flood evaporated, leaving salt, tears of the world. But the cost, memories faded, Mama's lullaby gone, Chiara's laugh echo, then silence, Moretti's eyes blank, the emotional devastation, victory through amputation. I'd saved the world, lost my soul's anchors. The codex crumbled to ash. The ash blew away, out the doors, into Rome. The pontiff's severed hand twitched on the floor. Fingers crawled, reassembling toward the dust key. A final whisper from the void, faint. The binding holds until the next keykeeper bleeds. Your child, Luceto. The line continues. The hand grasped a shard, vanished into shadow. I collapsed, the nave empty, the ash gone, but in my palm, a scar, shaped like a keyhole, the emotional horror, alone, the loves erased, but the call stronger. The bells tolled one dawn. Midnight mass was over, but the congregation waited, in me. Chapter 14, New Rosary, Eternal Night Shift. The sun rose over St. Peter's, like a wound cauterized too late, pale, bloodless, unable to warm the marble that still smelled of my friend's ashes. I walked out through the bronze doors alone. The Swiss guards were gone. Their halberds lay twisted into rosary chains. Beads made of teeth. Tourists would arrive in an hour and find an empty basilica echoing with recorded Ave Marias. No one would notice the new crack beneath the altar, or the single black feather drifting from the dome. I was the only living soul who remembered what had happened, and I remembered nothing else. Mama's lullaby, a tune without words, Chiara's scar, a shape without a face, Moretti's last look, a color I could no longer name. The binding had worked. The child was nameless again. The porta sealed. But the price was a scalpel slipped between every synapse, every person. I'd ever loved, filed down to a silhouette and labeled erased for your convenience. I could still feel the holes where they'd been, phantom limbs of the heart, twitching when the wind blew wrong. I sat on the lowest step of the Scala Regia. The key scar in my palm had closed into a perfect keyhole, edges raised like scar tissue. When I pressed it, the city sounds muted, traffic, gulls, tourists, gone. Only my pulse, thud, thud, counting down to the next midnight mass no calendar would mark. A pigeon landed. Its eyes were gold. It cooed my baptismal name, Lucetto Matteo Rossi, in Mama's voice, then exploded into black ash that spelled on the stone, "They miss you inside." I scattered the ash with my shoe. It crawled back together, forming a tiny hand that waved before the wind took it. The emotional isolation was a living thing, a vacuum that sucked color from the sky, taste from the air. Rome, eternal, bustling, felt like a snow globe I'd been locked inside after the shake. Every passerby wore the same blank smile, every Vespa the same Doppler wail. I screamed once, raw, primal. No one turned. The sound fell into the keyhole scar and vanished. I was untouchable. The world moved around a ghost who still bled. Ordo Noctis found me at dusk, a black Fiat, no plates. The driver, a woman in charcoal habit, scar identical to Chiara's but mirrored. She never spoke, just handed me a leather notebook, new rules, handwritten in ink that smelled of Moretti's blood. I opened it under a street lamp. Rule 1: never remove the new rosary. It is stitched from their vocal cords. They speak when you cannot. The beads were warm, human. When I clasped it, Chiara's laugh tickled my wrist. Moretti's baritone rumbled in my pulse. Mama's lullaby, wordless, hummed against my throat. The driver drove. Rome blurred. We stopped at the catacombs of San Callisto, closed since 1950 after structural anomalies. The gate opened for my keyhole palm. Inside, electric torches, steel doors, a bunker disguised as ossuary, dozens of agents marked like me, keyhole scars, rosaries of tongues, eyes that had seen the void and paid. A man approached, tall, silver-haired, face half erased by binding scars. Agent Rossi, welcome to the night shift. He led me to a wall of niches. Each held an urn, names etched. Maria Rossi, matriarch, Chiara Moretti, custos, Antonio Moretti, pastor. My knees buckled, the emotional ghoul inside me howled, a sound only I could hear. They were here, reduced to ash and memory. I'd killed them to save the world, and the world had filed them under collateral. The silver-haired man, Director Ludo, placed a hand on my shoulder. His touch burned with shared grief. Rule 2: the dead are on payroll. They work the hours we can't. He opened my urn, empty. Yours is reserved. When the binding fails, and it always does, you'll join them. Until then, you walk the world alone, carrying the silence they paid for. He handed me a map, Vatican City, but inverted, black veins spreading outward like roots, toward Paris, toward Washington, toward every deep place where water stands still. Your first assignment, Lake Nemi. The child left a shoe. Find it before the next keykeeper bleeds. The emotional vertigo. I was free, but chained. The loves I'd erased watched from the beads around my neck. Every night shift, I'd hear them whisper rules I'd written in their blood. I stepped into the catacombs. The gate sealed above. Rome slept. Oblivious. Below, the ashes stirred, forming words only I could read. We never left you. Lucetto, we just moved inside. The new rosary tightened. Mama's lullaby finally had words. Sleep, my pope of shadows. The door is in your heart. We'll open it together. When the next child cries, I walked into the dark, alone, but the darkness walked with me.